Hello, welcome. My name's Angela Davis and I'm the 4M Quilter, and today this is very impromptu. I was not planning on doing this video, but I am finishing up the binding on my aunt's quilt, and I can put a link down below. This is my quilt that I'm finishing up for my aunt. It's a lap quilt, and it's a double 4-patch, and I'm working on the last part of the binding. I machine stitched it to the front. Now I'm folding it over and I'm hand stitching the back. So I thought, since I'm doing a little bit of handwork, we just have a little chat. So as I was stitching, I was sitting in the living room doing this, and I was thinking about life and where I'm at in my life and where do I want to be, and feeling as though I must be the only one who feels like this. And then I thought, I can't be the only one that feels like this. So I thought, well, let me put it out there. So I'm 58 and I am, on my own. My ex-husband and I have 3 children, great kids, but I'm on my own, and I've adjusted well to my life, and I like my life. I like my life where I'm at right now. However, I get overwhelmed, and I thought, I want to share that with you because I can't be the only one. Since the split, my finances are much different. And I'm not going to lie to you, at the end of the month, it's hard to make ends meet. So, and that gets a little overwhelming. As I was sitting in the living room stitching, letting my mind wander, and I thought, I can't be the only one that gets overwhelmed. Now, maybe your overwhelmed situation is for a different reason, okay? But the point I'm trying to make is you're not the only one. My reason may be different than yours. Your situation for why you get overwhelmed may be different. Maybe you're caring for a loved one, caring for a parent, or maybe you're my age and you're raising your grandchildren. Whatever the reason, you're not alone. And I guess I just want to say that because it's easy to feel like you're all alone. Because that's what I was thinking when I was sitting in the living room earlier as I was stitching. I'm like, man, I'm 58 years old. Shouldn't I be living comfortably, after working my whole life? Shouldn't I have, my retirement already planned out? Shouldn't I have money in the bank? Shouldn't I have the house paid off? Shouldn't I be living comfortably and not having to worry each month? And then I said to myself, you know what? So life didn't turn out the way I planned. Well, okay, not everybody's life turns out the way you plan. Life isn't a plan. Life happens, and sometimes those plans don't work out. And so here I am in the living room stitching, thinking about, I get overwhelmed. And I thought, well, I'm going to share that with you. And I guess for me and for you, this sharing back and forth, maybe the burden won't feel so heavy, if we share each other's thoughts, and experiences. So that's what I just thought I'd have put that out there, Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about maybe if we share a little bit You know, whatever comment you leave in the comment section, I'm not going to repeat it. Although no, if you leave it in the comments, other people are going to read it. I guess my point is you don't have to be specific. You could just say, "Hey, I get it, Angela. Me too." That's all you got to say, you know. And I guess in that little bit of sharing, we can take comfort in the fact that we're not alone, you know. But anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest. I don't have my curtains done yet. That's obvious. I'm still working on those. I am working on my next video, which is going to be, if you watch the video about this quilt, I gave you a little sneak peek of my next video. I'll give you another little sneak information. It's going to be a scrappy Irish chain. So, that's coming soon. I'm excited about it. And it's using up some of my scraps, and I love that. Because you gotta love a quilt that uses up scraps. So, what are you all working on right now? Are you working on a special project for someone special in your life, like this one is? Are you working on a project just because you want to try a new design or a new color layout? Share that with me too. I love hearing from all of you. You know what? Since I'm doing this, let me show you what I'm doing. Okay, now, what I did was, oh, here's a thread. Always finding threads. What I did was, I attached the binding to the front, and that's part of the video when I made this quilt. And again, I'll leave a link below. And now what I'm doing is I'm turning it over, and I'm doing a blind stitch to finish it off. So what that means is right where it's hard to see because I'm using a matching thread, but right where the thread comes out of the binding, I'm going to go into the back, and I'm going to come out. And when I come out, I'm going to grab the fold of that binding. And this is probably the distance between where I went in and I come out is probably 1/3 of an inch. And then I pull. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the background right where I came out. See where I came out? And then when I bring the needle up, I'm going to grab the fold of the binding and then pull. And that is a blind stitch. It's also an applique stitch. That's how you applique. And you just do that all the way around. And a lot of my quilts, I just use my machine to finish the binding. But this one is special. This one's for my aunt. So I want to finish this by hand. And I started out with, my binding was 2.5 inches cut. And you fold it in half lengthwise and press it flat. So it's a double binding. And I talk about that with this video as well. When I made this quilt for my aunt. Like I said, I'll leave a link below in the description box. And this is just a very relaxing part of the process. It truly is. And I find that when I'm doing the hand stitching, my mind really relaxes, and it helps me work through things in my head, and that's what prompted me to, have this video. I think anything that involves methodical thoughts where you have to concentrate on what you're doing, and it takes time to do, whether it's woodworking, painting, sewing, or crafts, craft making in general, beading, anything that involves a process where you have to sort of concentrate on each step, I think is very good mentally, you know? It's good mentally and emotionally. It helps you push back, or rather work through in your mind what's been bothering you. It's good therapy. Now you'll notice I'm not using a thimble. I've gotten used to not using a thimble when I do this. Unless I come to an area where there's a little bit of bulk in there, I'll grab my thimble. But for the most part, I can pretty much do this without a thimble. And that's just a comfort level. You know, if you are used to using a thimble, by all means use a thimble. You know, do what's comfortable for you. Always do what's comfortable for you. But I do use a thimble if there's like a seam here and there's a little bit of bulk. I'll put my thimble on. Okay, now this thread is almost done, so I'm going to make a little knot here. There we go. I made a knot. Now I'm going to go into the back, but I'm going to come out inside the seam, okay? And I'm just going to take 1 or 2 back stitches inside the seam, and then I'm going to snip that thread and make another thread. And I'm just using a neutral thread. The neutral is working for me, so that's what I'm using. You know, I could have matched up the green, but I didn't have any green, so this color, neutral, is sort of my go-to. This one, and hold on, let me show you the other one. Let me put my needle in here, hold on. Let's see if I have the other shade. Oh, of course I don't. But this sort of creamy color, and then the next darker shade, and then a soft tan, and then a medium gray. Those are like my 4 main neutrals. Because if I have warm colors, this soft beige and the light tan that I go to blend well. If I have cool colors, that's when the gray comes in. And it just works for projects like this. So if you don't have the exact color for the binding, as long as you have one of those neutrals, you'll be fine. And I wish I had the gray and the other color tans to show you. Okay, now I'm starting a new thread. So what I'm doing is I'm going inside the seam, and I'm just going to take a couple back stitches, that's all, a couple back stitches. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in facing where I want to come out. I'm going to push my needle where I want to start where I came out at. There we go, see? I'm sure you've noticed that I'm not using pins or hair clips to hold that binding down. And the reason for that is I can pretty much go all the way around stitching my binding because this quilt is a lap size quilt. If it were a larger throw size quilt, or let's say a bed quilt, I would be pinning that binding down or using hair clips to hold it in place as I stitch. Okay, I have a seam right here in the binding, so I'm going to go back and I'm just gonna go back over that one more time. So what I did was, where I came out, I inserted the needle and came out on the other side of that seam, and I'm just going to take another stitch. And I just want to do that just because where that seam is, there's just a little, not a lot of bulk, but just a little bit. I just want to make sure it's secure. Now, the one thing that I didn't mention earlier is when I go into the background fabric, I'm not going all the way through to the other side. I'm only going into the backing fabric and picking up a little bit of the batting. You catch enough fabric and enough of the batting to make it secure. When I go in to start the next stitch, I'm going into the backing fabric, and you can feel where you're going through the batting as well, but I'm not picking up any stitches on the back. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull through. So it is, let's see, Sunday, and it is still Memorial Day weekend. I've already had my coffee, and today I'm hanging out with the kids. They're coming here. I'm going to make a nice lunch. We're going to do some sewing together, the girls and I. And Ben's going to be here. He'll hang out and probably watch a movie or something while we're in here sewing. Thinking about making homemade pizza. That's something everybody likes and can enjoy. When I make homemade pizza, I like it because I can control the amount of cheese that's on it. Sometimes when we buy pizza, they put too much cheese on it, and then you're like, whoa. And you know, now that I'm older, I can't have cheese like I used to, or dairy. So to be very honest with you, I don't eat or consume a lot of dairy products any longer. And so if I eat, you know, a pizza parlor pizza, I usually have to only have one. My stomach can't handle any more than that because of the dairy. I haven't had milk in I don't know how long. I allow myself ice cream maybe every 3 months. And when I say ice cream, I mean like soft serve, like Dairy Queen, because the soft serve ice cream has a lot less dairy fat. So it doesn't bother my stomach. Believe me, I miss having cheese, but I've learned to live with it. You know, I've learned to live with it. And but that's why I like making the homemade, because I can control the amount of cheese. And so because of that, I can enjoy a couple slices without it bothering my stomach or my bowels. And the one cheese that I can have is the Parmesan Reggiano. Um, some people call it shaky cheese because you shake it on your pasta. But the Parmesan Reggiano I can have. That doesn't bother my stomach or my bowels. And I wonder if it's because it's aged for so long, it's changed the composition of the dairy. And that's the reason why my stomach can handle it. So yeah, so I'm going to make homemade pizza today. I have to tell you a story. What holiday did we just celebrate? Mother's Day. Mother's Day. So for Mother's Day, we went over to my mom's. And I told Mom, I said, hey, we are not cooking. We are going to have a light lunch and we're going to hang out and play games. She's like, okay. So a couple of days before Mother's Day, my daughter calls me and says, hey, Mom, I want to make pizza. Can I have the recipe? I said, sure. So I give her the recipe to make the homemade dough. She calls me back a couple hours later and I go, well, hey, how'd the pizza turn out? She goes, it turned out really good, but what recipe did you give me? And I go, well, why? She goes, Mom, I have enough dough here to make double the amount of pizzas that I wanted to make. And here's me. I think I gave you the double recipe. And she goes, well, I have a bunch of dough here. She goes, won't it stay in the refrigerator for a couple of days? And I said, absolutely. She goes, well, how about for Mother's Day, I bring the dough over and we make fried dough. Well, if you're Italian like us, fried dough is just another word for elephant ears. We grew up calling them homemade donuts or fried dough because in reality, that was the original form of a donut. Americans Americanized the donut to make it in the shape of a circle with a hole in the middle. But if you look at the ethnic background of a donut, beignets, that's a donut. That's in the shape of a square. That has a French origin. Germans have a plethora of fried doughs that are considered, well, we consider donuts, but there may be crullers are a type of a fried dough. What's the other one? A bear claw is a type of a fried dough. And they all have an ethnic origin, German. And every ethnic origin has a form of a fried dough donut. But they're not circles with a hole in the middle. That's an American version of a donut. So anyway, for Mother's Day, we all went over to my mom's. And I said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to make a semi-homemade tomato soup with grilled cheese. And Elizabeth and I are going to make fried dough. And we're going to sit around and play games. And boy, was that good. And we just sprinkled the fried dough with cinnamon sugar. And we sat around and played games. So it was a good afternoon. It's a good afternoon. I have a snag here. I got the snag out. So that's what we did for Mother's Day. And it was really, really nice. Well, I'm almost finished with this thread. So I think I might finish up the thread and then check the time, do a few things around here, and then go pick up the kids. Thanks so much for tuning in for this little impromptu, I don't know, sew and talk, I guess. Sew and talk. Hope you have a great weekend. And Hope you have a great week. And as I said on my video, on my other video that I posted yesterday about my quilt challenge, my pattern challenge, and my vintage books and magazines, for anyone who has served, or for anyone who has a friend or a family member who has served, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've given up your time, you've given up, living parts of your life and missing family events. You give your blood, sweat, and tears, and in some situations you've given up your body and soul. So to all the family members and the veterans out there, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My name's Angela Davis. I'm the 4 a.m. Quilter. If you like what you've heard today, hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss any more of my videos. Have a great week. And remember, why sleep when you can sew?